Hi, this is Mr. Nazarian. Our learning objective today, I can convert different sized measurements within the same measurement system to solve real-world problems. 5th grade standard measurement and data A1. Coral ran 190,080 inches in the Race of Inches race over the weekend. Of course, her dad asked her how many feet she ran in the race. She said that not only could she figure out how many feet she ran, she could also calculate exactly how many miles the race was as well. How many feet was the race? How many miles? So we're going to help Coral figure that out. So as a quick review from yesterday's lesson, we were looking at larger units such as a mile, and we were given that information, and then we needed to convert it to smaller units within the same system, which this is a standard system. Also the imperial system is sometimes referred to as. So in order to do that, we took the amount of miles and we multiplied it by 1,760 to figure out how many yards. And then we could take that, multiply it by 3 because there's 3 feet in a yard. We could take that, multiply it by 12 because there's 12 inches in a foot. Or we could, if we wanted to just jump ahead and said, well, I want to know how many, I just want to know how many inches there are in a mile. We don't have to go through yards and then feet and then inches. If we know that there are 63,360 inches in 1 mile, we can multiply that by however many miles we have. So in order to take a larger unit and convert it to smaller units, we multiply. So what operation do you think we are going to use if we want to take a smaller unit of measurement and convert it to a larger unit of measurement? That's right, division. So because division is an inverse operation of multiplication, we're just going to do basically the same thing as what we worked on yesterday, except we're going to be dividing the number that we're given because, for example here, if we had, if I was given the amount of inches and I wanted to figure out how many miles it was, for example, if I know that there are 63,360 inches that I'm looking at, I would just and I wanted to figure out how many miles, I would divide that by 63,360, and that would give me 1, that's the miles, right? So, and again, we know that there are 12 inches in a foot, so if I knew how many inches there were and I wanted to figure out the feet, I would just take that and divide it by 12, because I know there are 12 inches in a foot, and that would give me this number here. So if I was given, remember this is Coral here, Coral ran 190,080 inches, and we wanted to figure out how many feet and how many miles. So we have the inches here, so how could we figure out how many feet it is? Because that was the first question that her dad asked her. We are going to divide it by what number? We're going to divide it by 12. And so if you take 190,080 and you divide it by 12, you're going to get what number? You're going to get 15,840. So that answers that first part of the question, which was there are 15,840 feet that she ran in the race, and if we wanted to figure out how many miles, we would take this number again, right? This is how many inches she ran. And we would divide that by what number? We would take 190,080, 80, and we would divide it by 63,360, because that, again, remember, is how many inches there are in a mile. And that gives us, if we do that, we get an answer of 3. So that was the second part that Coral needed to figure out, is how many miles there are in 190,080 inches. And if we wanted to figure out this yard, so we've already solved this problem, but just for giggles here, we already know how many feet there are. If we wanted to convert the feet to yards, what number would we divide this by? We would divide this by 3, right? Because there are 3 feet in a yard. So we'd take 15,840, we would divide that by 3, we would get 5,280. All right. And that looks kind of like a familiar number, right? Remember, that is how many feet there are in a mile, in 1 mile. So this says there's 5,280 yards in 3 miles. Now, why is that? What is the relationship between those numbers? There's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. There's 5,280 yards in 3 miles. What is the relationship of those numbers? Why is it that works out that way? Okay, so we've got our information. We answered Coral's question that her dad asked her, which was how many feet and how many miles. So we'll work more on this tomorrow. See you then. Bye.